Hi everyone, it's Chris here from Action for Elders. Today I want to elaborate a little bit about on the last clip that we did about mindfulness that we posted, so we can take something from that to use in everyday life. All too often, mindfulness, meditative processes and things like that tend to be shrouded a little bit as an abstract kind of thought process. And I want to try and dispel some of that so that we all kind of can take something from it that is applicable to the way that we live. And it's not some kind of far off sort of mysticism that's interpreted through a lens that is kind of a little bit far removed from actually how we live in this moment, because that's essentially what it's all about. So when you talk about calming the mind, a meditative process, and using mindfulness to knowing oneself more intimately, it's all well and good when you're sitting reading books referring to people like, various different sources like Alan Watts, Jiddu Krishnamurti, Shunraya Suzuki, Damien Katagiri, just to name a few people. But I think it's actually about using those lights of wisdom, whatever rings out to us, as something whereby we can use it as a guide to take us down the right path to giving us that sense of inner peace. So in itself, it's all well and good thinking and talking about these things, but how do we go about implementing that into our lives so that it's sustainable? And that's kind of what I want to try and touch on today. So in these videos, what I want to try and do is develop on what we spoke about last time and make this as palatable as possible so that the Western mind can try and interpret things in a very common sense way, so that it's something quite tangible that you can get hold of, and it sparks that small light of inquiry with you. And it might be anything. It could be something very, very simple, and it's just that little eclectic, oh, that makes sense to me, and then we're able to take that away and use it and formulate it in a way whereby it can benefit our lives. So quite simply, one of the simplest ways that we can do something like that is through our breathing processes. So through breathing, when we focus our mind to our breathing, I wouldn't go as far as to say that everything else drops away, but it gives us a focal point. So if I can explain, zazen, which is a Japanese term, means literally to focus your mind, to bring your mind to a point. Okay, so when we focus on our breathing, we become aware of our breathing patterns. That's essentially what it does. Now, initially, the complication with this is that as soon as we attempt to possibly not shut out, but as soon as we attempt to just focus on our breathing and ignore other thoughts, all of a sudden, it's like asking water not to be wet. If we say to you, okay, don't think about an elephant, say for instance, all of a sudden you start to picture, oh, hang on, tusks and a long trunk and ears, and you start to build up this picture, this visualization in your mind. So it's about trying not to think, So being present in that sense and embodying that sense of breathing actually helps the pace and the mind waves in our minds come down to a manageable level. So you can have an awareness of your thoughts, but actually not give them any degree of fuel. It's almost like not pouring paraffin on an already boiling fire. Our thoughts don't need any help to whirl around at 1,000,000 miles an hour. We seem quite talented at doing that as human beings ourselves. What it's actually about is taking a step back from that thought process and actually sort of thinking, like with Krishnamurti, where he used to say, are we just our thoughts? We must be more than just our thought processes as human beings. Our energy and the frequency with which we operate is more than just our thinking patterns. That's just a byproduct of what we are as human beings. And if we feed into that too much, you will become imminently aware of the mind's resistance patterns in terms of the tricks and patterns that it likes to play. Alan Watts, another famous philosopher who's no longer with us, called this the angel and the animal, where we all know you get one voice on one shoulder and one voice on another shoulder, both giving you conflicting things. Perhaps one is positive, reinforcing positive things about yourself or positive things about your journey and your future, and perhaps the other not so positive. The way that we can take a sidestep from that and break free of this kind of incessant mental activity is through our breath. Now, obviously, this is a source of, it's a dichotomous sort of sense of thinking, because in a way we sort of think, well, hang on, well, we all breathe. We've breathed since we were born. It's just a natural thing that happens that we don't necessarily think about or consider. And I think that's the point. It's our focus is never really, how often do we take to one side and sort of say to ourselves, okay, let's just focus on some breathing, like you would if you were doing yoga, like you would if you were doing some form of exercise, but without the exercise, and just make the breathing the exercise in itself. So the connection with the breath, the thing that I'm trying to get to is, it doesn't just pertain to the mind and the slowing down of the mind, which it will do without any shadow of a doubt, but also this connection with breath and breathing, being aware of your breathing and watching your breathing slow down to a manageable level, also translates to the body. And this is what I want to try and highlight and demonstrate in the next video, in the sense of when we're doing movement, in the sense of Tai Chi, in the sense of limbering movements, etc., the more that you connect yourself with your breath throughout these movements, and the synchronicity of that starts to work together, all of a sudden it takes on a whole new meaning, And this can only be emphasized through our own experience of taking that path, So when you're breathing deep breaths in, deep breaths out, you'll feel yourself start to calm down. And also, not just that, but you'll also feel that the muscles that you're using will be able to move just that little bit further. So if you're stretching your head to one side, for instance, to try and limber up your trapezius muscle, you'll feel gradually each time the out breath extends that little bit further through calmness, it will start to develop more of a sense of well-being, more of a sense of flexibility within your body, in the sense that you're very much nourishing yourself. And then that starts to translate to, this overall sense of well-being and just rootedness in the earth that we would feel as a result of this continued practice. So that's something we're going to develop on in the next few videos. Please keep an eye on our YouTube channel. You can subscribe to the channel as well if you want to, and please let us know your thoughts in terms of what we're posting in the future. Thanks very much for your time. Speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.